no issue to me. What I'll do, it's stored somewhere in some disk or in some device, okay, some 4 terabyte data. What I'll do, if I'm only trying to do the average, I put a counter here in my RAM. I read one number, add it to that. Read another number, add it to that. So it will take a little bit of time, but this is not what I'll call it's really a big data problem. I don't need to do anything beyond that. Just communicating this number from the external device to my RAM and just going adding. But do you understand what a matrix is? If I am trying to compute an inverse of 100 by 100 matrix, that is a problem. Because there what we do are solving linear equations with 100 equations, with 100 unknowns. There we do a lot of divisions. That the divisions, no matter what program, what computing device you use, are prone to some error. The more and more you do division, okay, the error mounts. And my experience is that beyond 10 by 10 matrices, beyond solution of equation with more than 10 variables, okay, the errors accumulate so much. With the traditional method of our Gaussian elimination of the methods, ultimately we get nothing close to even the correct value. So now they have to evolve a method how to solve equations. If I have 1000 equations, 1200 variables, if I am trying to optimize with 4000 constants and 10,000 variables, so it needs special treatment of how to make an algorithm so that I can do it, and yet I get a reasonably good solution or inverse. Our usual method that we learned is going to fail. It will not give me the correct matrix. And the culprit is this division. And I've seen in all these big data algorithms, they never use division. They use iteration and convergence to the right solution. You will see later on iterations. Iterations hardly do any division. They will do multiplication, addition, subtraction. And the whole technique of this, when they are handling this huge amount of data, they try to avoid divisions. So if you see any iterative algorithm, you would hardly see any division, because people identify that was the culprit, that was my villain in transforming from a 10 variable problem to a 100 variable problem. So this is what is actually, this transition is what I will call big data. But then since I was trained in ISI from my first year of bachelor's degree, I'll tell a few stories about what is actually meant by data. Okay, and I'll talk about what is data, and it's very unusual data. See, data is, sometimes you get the data, if the government publishes the price index, the inflation, we may publish all your heights, but data is much beyond that. Data is, this is the data, of course, but the data that we'll be looking forward is something beyond that. In business domain, they're trying to solve a business problem. Okay, so now what is relevant data? That is probably one of the most challenges here. If I have to solve this business problem, what is the most relevant data that we need to gather? Okay, the data we get, is it reliable? Is it correct? Can I rely on this data? Okay, I'll tell you through my examples what I mean by this. So business problem and how to get data relevant to the business problem to solve the business problem. So I go back to my BSTET first year days. We had an outstanding teacher, J. Roy. Outstanding is a very, very small word for him. He's no more. My teacher in 75, so he's no more. So he told us a story about the father of statistics, Sir Ronald Fisher. He was very important man. He was a Cambridge professor. So he, we didn't know how to drink tea before British came here, because it's a British custom, this tea. Even if I go to my British people's house these days, they will offer a cup of tea and biscuits. They call cookies, but and even few years before, they would actually drink tea with milk and sugar. We had no option. Normally they may only ask how much sugar you take. But like this black tea, white tea or green tea, with sugar, without sugar, with milk, without milk. That was not the British custom. So they used to drink tea with milk and sugar. Now this is more than 100 years back. Sir Fisher was visiting his friend, and the lady of the house, his friend's wife, offered him a cup of tea and some cookies, because they don't say biscuits. We only say biscuits, cookies. And then suddenly it occurred to Sir Fisher that, you know, when you make tea, you boil the water, they brew the tea leaves with this boiled water, and some people put the sugar while brewing, or some people add the sugar after filtering. So there will be a pot, they put some tea leaves, and you have to, and I'm telling this because the most important in this subject is to understand the domain. So if you don't understand the domain, you don't know what to do absolutely. So it's very important to understand the domain, what was exactly happening there. So in a teapot, you put some tea leaf, you put boiling water, and then you may add sugar while brewing. Okay, then you allow 5-10 minutes to brew, then you filter, and then normally milk is added after brewing. But in or Punjabi shop, they will boil everything with this milk and etc. Or Punjabi tea. I also like it. It's not that it's bad tasty, but it's a different way of. That's not the British way of making. And the other one could be you brew it only with the tea leaves, and then after filtering you add sugar.